Right. So let's dive into those shipping costs. I bet you're feeling it too. Those recent announcements from UPS and FedEx about the 2025 rate hikes. Yikes. 5.9% on average. Oof, probably had you grabbing your calculator and maybe an aspirin or two. But get this. Over the past 5 years, these big carrier increases have actually outpaced inflation by a whopping 10%. That means the sting you're feeling now, well, it's only going to get worse
Oh.
unless you take action. And that's what this deep dive is all about. Uncovering those hidden costs. You know, the ones that can really sneak up on you and frankly decimate your profit margins.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Most businesses, they just focus on those big headline numbers. But it's the incremental increases, those seemingly small changes over time. Well, those are the ones that can really do the damage. Think of it like this. A small 5.9% increase this year, compounded year after year. That could turn a $100 shipment in 2025 into a $130 burden by 2030. That's a 30% increase, and that's just the base rate.
Okay, so we're talking about more than just the general rate increase, right? I mean, what else is lurking in the fine print? Let's be honest. Most of us just don't have time to dissect every single line item on those carrier announcements.
You're telling me. The devil really is in the details. Take additional handling surcharges, for example. UPS just bumped theirs up to $15.65. Now, that might not sound like much, but if you're shipping, say, 100 packages a week that qualify for that surcharge, well, that's an extra $8,000 a year. And both UPS and FedEx now have a 40-pound minimum weight for those charges. So even a small package, something that's oddly shaped, well, that can trigger that extra fee.
Hold on, dimensional weight?
Hmm.
What is that? And why should I care?
Well, it's this sneaky way. Carriers can charge you based on the size of your package, not just the weight. They calculate the volume and then use a formula to come up with a dimensional weight. And if that dimensional weight is higher than the actual weight, well, you get charged based on larger number. So you could be shipping a lightweight item, but if it's in a big box, you're going to pay more. And of course, they recently changed those formulas too, to increase costs.
Ah, I see how that can add up quickly, especially if you aren't packaging things efficiently. It feels like a bit of a shell game, doesn't it?
It definitely can. And it's not just the dimensional weight. They've also got fuel surcharges, changes to specific service areas, even, look at this, credit card processing fees. UPS is adding a 2% surcharge on all payments made with a credit card, so if you're not paying attention. These little things, they can really eat into your profit margins.
You know what? I'm starting to feel like I need a forensic accountant just to understand my shipping invoices. Seriously, though, this is a lot to keep track of.
It absolutely is. And that's why one strategy many businesses are turning to is parcel auditing. It's like having a financial watchdog, specifically for your shipping expenses.
I get that it can help, but honestly, it sounds like a hassle. Is it really worth the effort? I mean, how much money are we really talking about here?
More than you might think. Parcel auditing involves combing through your invoices to find errors, overcharges, late deliveries, anything that qualifies for a refund from the carriers. And these discrepancies, well, they happen more often than you'd imagine. You might be charged for a service you didn't use, billed for a late package, or even hit with an incorrect dimensional weight calculation. And believe me, those discrepancies add up. We're talking potentially thousands of dollars in refunds every year.
Okay, now you've got my attention. But manually going through every single invoice, that sounds like a full-time job.
It can be, especially if you're dealing with a high volume of shipments. But thankfully, you don't have to do it alone. There are services out there, like Franklin Parcel, for example, that automate this entire process.
So they basically do all the tedious work for you. Tell me more.
Exactly. They use technology to flag potential issues, file claims on your behalf, and even track the progress of those claims. They take the burden off your shoulders and help you recover money that you might not even realize you were losing.
You know, I was initially skeptical about this whole parcel auditing thing,
Right.
but I'm starting to see how much money I might be leaving on the table. Do you have any examples of businesses that have actually benefited from this?
Absolutely. We've got a great case study about a mid-sized e-commerce company that was really struggling with those skyrocketing shipping costs. They were feeling the squeeze, but they weren't sure where to start. Then they decided to give parcel auditing a try.
All right, here's where it gets interesting. Tell me what happened.
They partnered with a parcel auditing service, and what they discovered was amazing. The auditing process uncovered a ton of discrepancies in their invoices. Late deliveries, dimensional weight miscalculations, the whole 9 yards. They were able to file claims for all those issues and
Wait, hold on. They actually got money back. I mean, real money, not just some credit on their next shipment.
real money. They ended up recovering a significant amount, which they were then able to reinvest back into the business. It was a real game changer for them.
Wow. That's incredible. It's like finding hidden treasure in your shipping invoices. That story alone makes me want to look into parcel auditing. But what about other strategies? I mean, parcel auditing feels a bit reactive. What can we do to be more proactive? You know about managing these costs.
You're absolutely right. Being proactive is key, and one of the best things you can do is optimize your packaging. Remember those additional handling surcharges we talked about? A lot of those can be avoided with smarter packaging choices.
Okay, so we're talking about more than just using smaller boxes. What else should we be thinking about?
Think about the materials you're using. Can you switch to something lighter weight without compromising protection? Are you using the right size box for your products? Or are you paying for a lot of empty space? Even something as simple as using packing peanuts instead of bubble wrap, well, that can make a difference in the dimensional weight calculation.
I never thought I'd be so fascinated by packing peanuts. But seriously, this makes a lot of sense. Small changes can really add up. What else can we do to stay ahead of these cost increases?
Another smart strategy is to analyze your shipping profile. It's basically a deep dive into your shipping patterns.
It's like figuring out where we ship to most often
Mm.
and what types of services we use.
Exactly. By understanding your shipping patterns, you can predict future costs more accurately and adjust your strategies. For instance, if you see you're consistently shipping to a zone with high surcharges, maybe you could explore alternative carriers for those shipments or adjust your pricing to account for the higher costs. You could even use this data to negotiate better rates with your current carriers.
That's a great point about negotiating. It makes me wonder, how do we even know if we're getting a good deal in the first place? I mean, these carrier contracts can be so complex, it's hard to know if you're being taken for a ride.
I hear you. It can feel like you're up against a giant corporation with all the leverage. But you do have more power than you might think, especially if you're shipping a significant volume. Don't be afraid to push back and negotiate those rates. Carriers are often willing to work with you, especially if you have solid understanding of your shipping profile and you can present a compelling case.
So it's all about being prepared and informed, not just accepting whatever rates they throw at us. I like that. Are there other options besides just UPS and FedEx? I mean, what about those smaller regional carriers? Are they worth considering?
Absolutely, depending on your needs. Regional carriers or specialized services, well, they can sometimes offer better rates or more tailored solutions. It's definitely worth exploring those options, especially if you're shipping to specific regions or have unique shipping needs.
Okay, this is all starting to feel a lot less overwhelming. It's like instead of being at the mercy of these carriers, we actually have some control.
You absolutely do. And speaking of control, we can't forget about the power of technology, in streamlining our shipping processes and
Mhm.
saving us money. There's a whole world of logistics software out there that can make your life so much easier.
Okay, technology. I'm all ears. What are we talking about here?
Imagine software that automatically generates shipping labels with the most cost-effective carrier and service based on the destination and package dimensions. No more manually comparing rates or trying to decipher complex carrier charts.
That sounds amazing, especially for businesses like mine that are juggling a million things at once. What else can this software do?
It can track your shipments in real time, so you and your customers always know where those packages are. No more frantic phone calls from customers, wondering where their order is, and perhaps even more importantly, all that data, tracking information, shipping costs, delivery times, is all being collected and analyzed.
So we're not just saving time, we're actually gathering valuable insights that can help us make better decisions about our shipping strategies going forward.
Exactly. That's the power of data analytics. You can identify trends, spot potential problems, and optimize your processes to be more efficient. And yes, less expensive. You can even use this data to forecast future costs, negotiate better rates with carriers, and adjust your pricing to factor in those shipping expenses.
It's like having a crystal ball for your shipping operation. Sounds incredible. But I have to be honest, all this technology feels a bit out of reach. For a small business like mine, I mean, I can barely keep up with my email, let alone implement fancy software.
I hear you. But honestly, there are options out there for businesses of all sizes. Some software solutions are incredibly affordable, even for small businesses.
Mhm.
And you don't have to go all in right away. Start small, maybe with a simple shipping label generator
Oh.
or a basic tracking system.
So we can dip our toes in the water without breaking the bank. I like that. What about free resources? Are there any websites or tools we can use to get started?
Absolutely. There are tons of free online shipping calculators and comparison tools that can give you a good starting point. And don't underestimate the power of good old-fashioned research. Spend some time reading industry blogs. attending webinars, or even just talking to other business owners about their shipping strategies.
I was feeling pretty overwhelmed at the beginning of this deep dive.
Hmm.
All those rate hikes, all those hidden fees, felt like a losing battle. But now I'm actually feeling empowered. Like, we have options, we have tools, we can fight back.
That's the spirit, and that's what we want you to take away from this conversation. Don't be passive, be proactive, be informed, be curious, and be willing to explore all the options available to you.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We talked about all those sneaky ways shipping costs can just creep up on you. Those hidden fees and surcharges,
Yeah.
the ones that can really eat into your profits. But more importantly, I think, we've explored a whole arsenal of strategies for fighting back,
Mm.
for taking control, and even for turning shipping from a cost center into a competitive advantage.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. We talked about parcel auditing, packaging optimization, analyzing your shipping profile, exploring those alternative carriers, even negotiating better rates, and, of course, harnessing the power of technology. It's definitely a lot to take in. But the message is clear. You have more control over your shipping costs than you might think.
I love that. It's not about accepting these rate hikes lying down. It's about being proactive, being informed, and finding those solutions that really work for your business. But I got to be honest, it's a little daunting. I mean, where do we even begin?
That's a great question, and I think the first step is just awareness. Take a look at your recent shipping invoices. Do you really understand all the charges and fees? Are there any that seem a bit excessive or just out of line? Knowledge is power. And once you understand the problem, well, then you can start looking for solutions.
Okay, awareness. Got it. What's next?
Next, I'd say exploration. Don't be afraid to shop around. Reach out to different carriers. Compare those rates and services. Consider partnering with a parcel auditing service. You might be surprised at the cost-saving opportunities you uncover.
So it's about being curious, asking questions,
Yeah.
and not being afraid to try something new.
Exactly. And finally, the most important step, action. Don't just sit on this information. Choose one concrete step, something you can actually take this week to implement one of the strategies we've discussed. Maybe it's optimizing your packaging. Maybe it's requesting a quote from a new carrier. Maybe it's finally checking out that parcel auditing service you've been curious about. It doesn't have to be a huge overhaul, just one small step in the right direction.
I like that. Small steps, big results. It feels manageable. It feels empowering. And, throughout this whole conversation, one thing that's really stood out to me is the power of technology. I mean, the idea that we can automate tasks, get real-time insights, even forecast future costs, it's pretty mind-blowing.
It really is. And you know what's even more exciting? This technology is becoming more and more accessible every day. There are so many affordable solutions out there for businesses of all sizes.
And, of course, we can't forget about the resources we've mentioned, like those free online shipping calculators and comparison tools, industry blogs, webinars, even just talking to other business owners and learning from their experiences. There's a whole community out there ready to support you on this journey.
Exactly. And speaking of resources, I want to give another shout out to Franklin Parcel. They've been an incredible partner in helping us put together this deep dive. And they really are the experts in the field of parcel auditing and cost optimization. If you're looking for a place to start, highly recommend checking them out.
Couldn't agree more. They're a wealth of information, and they got some fantastic tools to help you take control of your shipping costs. But ultimately, it's up to you. Knowing what you know now about those hidden costs and the strategies for fighting back, what one action will you take this week to protect your business?
Think about it, write it down, and most importantly, take action. You've got this.
That's it for this deep dive into the world of incremental parcel cost increases. We hope you found it insightful, empowering, and maybe even a little bit exciting. Because remember, it's not about being defeated by these challenges, it's about rising to the occasion, finding those creative solutions, and ultimately thriving in the ever-evolving world of e-commerce. Thanks for joining us.
And happy shipping.